This is the Between Night Visitors Part 10. We don't have Alicia today, and I am sad to say that this is the last time we're going to have Dan and Mr. Talford as well, because Dan has accepted a job that makes it so that he can no longer play with us in the daytime. So, Dan, you have the power to determine your character's fate whenever you wish. You can mark the blood-soaked portal if you want him to die bloodily, or you can... actually, you don't have the option of retiring him with safety, because I think you've already marked your Mask of the Future.
Yeah, no safety, for sure.
Yeah. So at any time, if you want to bump up a die roll and die, you can do that. So
all right, look for that.
Blaze of glory, blaze of glory. Also, for Dan, we had a brand new character last time who entered play, who is the Unquiet, Mr. Sylvestris, Ambrose Sylvestris. And presently, during the day, Mr. Sylvestris interacts with you all via a bust in the library. That is how he interacts in the day. With some effort, Mr. Sylvestris can manifest in a physical form. I think it's like, it's not super explicit, David, in the rules, but like if you, for one mark, you can basically manifest in the house, right? To go outside of the house is 2 marks. But I think you only have 1 mark available right now, if I'm not mistaken. So yeah.
Yep, that's right.
So you can manifest in the house and do some stuff in the house in the daytime if you wish. But in any case, that is sort of where we are at. And let's talk about the threats. So we currently have 3 active threats. Fig's Pigs, still trying to sort out what's going on with Patrick Fig. We have the Creature of Crumorn Gardens, trying to figure out if this creature is real or is it a hoax. We have the brand new threat, who is Mr. Nelson. And we're trying to determine if Mr. Nelson's condition is permanent or reversible. The short version of this is that the spider creature has been terrorizing London, basically. That's what's been going on there. And I have some leads there. If they're not in the notes, but if anybody wants those leads again, I can tell you if you want to follow up on them. But that's sort of where we're at with all that. And in terms of the hunters, condition-wise, Mr. Talford, you have a taste for it. Mr. Sylvester, you don't have anything. Green, you have Theodora wants the lurker back, and always the last to leave. Oh yeah, the lurker. We'll talk about the lurker in a minute. And yeah, so at the very last scene, basically, of the last session, Green was investigating this farm, kind of like just outside this, just on the city limits. And he just happened to cross paths with the Limehouse lurker, the little boy vampire, who was using that farm as his hunting grounds because it's near Theodora's manor out in the country, which is where he's staying now. And they encountered each other. Ultimately, Green kidnapped the Limehouse lurker. And so the Limehouse lurker presumably is in Hargrave House right now. The last time we saw him, he was in a sack. We don't know if it's still the case, but I think we're going to find out really quickly what's going on with the Limehouse lurker. So that is the situation there. Any other questions or anything before we go?
So mechanically, like the Limehouse lurker is back in effect, so it can be resolved?
No, the Limehouse lurker is a servant of the mastermind. He's just like a side character now. So
okay,
well, he's technically, per the rules of the game, he's called a servant of the mastermind, which has special mechanical considerations. But for your purposes, he's a side character. So
okay,
a dangerous side character. So
we've swapped one vampire for another.
Yeah, I was just thinking he's baby Julius.
Yeah. Well, we never settled whether he was old or young, right? I don't think we ever actually answered that question. Did we?
We did.
Oh, what is he?
I think he was young because we got to the point where we could recreate his childhood thing or whatever.
Well, Theodora has taught him some tricks, or at least taught him to be more vicious, because he was being quite vicious at the farm. So that's the Limehouse lurker. You may not be the one you want, but it's the one you've got. So with all that said, oh, and also mastermind clues. You have 10 mastermind clues. The only reason why this even happened is because 10 mastermind clues is a threshold. So suddenly the servants of the mastermind get involved. All right. Day phase. No new threats to present, but normal stuff. Finding out what everybody wants to do today. Green. I think you're probably the most important person in this at this point.
So I think the lurker has been put up in Julius's room, tied to the bed. And I think Green is going to go and find some blood.
Very good. Mr. Sylvestris, what are you going to do today in the library?
I was actually wondering if we were interested in answering a question. It's not the final question, so I don't think it has to be done at night, but for is the creature real or a hoax for Cremorne Gardens?
Well, it's only the resolution that has to be done at night, not the actual
yeah,
answer
that's what I thought.
Question.
Yeah. So I'd be interested in answering that question today and then maybe doing something based on that.
Okay, yeah. Mr. Talford?
So I feel like I need to investigate the Mr. Nelson thread. That seems like definitely what I would be doing today. So not exactly sure what the best way to approach that is. Since I'll give you
kind of a recap and a follow-up on sort of what was happening with that once we, I'll do it now, in fact. So basically, a few days had passed since the Fragrant Void. Mr. Talford just went missing. We don't even know where Mr. Talford was during that time, but now you're back. And in that time, essentially the Mr. Nelson, the Cursed, is just like terrorizing. It seems like really specific places in the city. So the first place that he was known to terrorize was a building site on Baker Street, and there was a bricklayer named David Hawkins who was found eviscerated at that building site. There was a sex worker, Miss Albina Tompkins. She claims to have seen the spider creature. She hangs out mostly in a park called Clapham Common. And then we have 14 Portman Square, where there's a judge, Sidney Thornwick, who actually shot Mr. Nelson several times and stabbed him with a saber, and Mr. Nelson got away. But Mr. Quinn's already investigated the judge angle, gone, talked to the judge, sorted out a bunch of clues there. So basically it's just the sex worker and this building site. But the interesting thing about the judge is it turns out the judge was a previous client of sorts of Hargrave House. He had a haunting, and Hargrave House once helped him. And so he's like very fascinated by the spider creature, just from almost like a enthusiast standpoint. He was very thrilled that he was able to put 4 bullets in the thing and it didn't die, and so that's one thing. And there might be some really special reasons why the spider creature is terrorizing those other 2 places. The question is really important, actually, because the question is Mr. Nelson's condition permanent or reversible? And this is important because when we established the threat, when we presented it, basically we established that you all know that Mr. Nelson will return to Hargrave House. Like, he will eventually come back. And you know this because Mr. Quinn has been able to see his silvery fragrant void cord throughout the city. It's connected to Hargrave House. So the belief is he's going to show back up at some point. And the question is this reversible or permanent? Like, are we gonna have to kill him or or not, right? So you're all just kind of preparing for like his eventual return to Hargrave House to figure out what to do with him, right? So that's sort of where that's at.
Okay, well, in light of that, I think I would go investigate the murder site.
Okay, sounds good. Yeah, that sounds great. Okay, so why don't we start with the conversation in the morning, though, with sorting out the creature of Cremorne Gardens. Mr. Sylvestris, do you have a theory about whether the creature is real or a hoax?
I kind of think it's a hoax. I think there's sort of a Scooby-Doo mystery happening here. And if everyone's interested in that, then we can go ahead with that as the premise. But if everybody would rather it be real, we can also angle for that. But
I like it being a hoax.
2 votes for hoax.
We've had so many like interesting real monsters and ghosts and vampires. It'd be kind of fun to have something that is much more mundane.
Yeah, I agree.
So the complexity is 4. If you can work in 4 clues, you'll have a flat roll. Any more than that, you'll get +1, +2, etc. So let's talk about clues. What do we think?
So I, sort of inspired by the story about the Cremorne Garden expansion, I think that they have been trying to expand and take in some other attractions around London. And one of those smaller attractions is essentially trying to discredit them or scare people out in a way to like basically deny them the capital that they would need in order to do such a merger. That's my running theory. Does that which would like then lean on the story about the Cremorne Garden expansion. Like we know that they're trying to gain more, that they've been doing fairly well in that respect. Can you remind me about the Madame Tussauds Horrors of the Deep waxwork?
There was just I think one of the proprietors of Cremorne Gardens mentioned it. Someone mentioned it. Like basically they have a waxwork that's this Horrors of the Deep waxwork.
Okay. And that's currently at Cremorne Garden, or is that a different thing?
No, it's not at Cremorne Gardens. It's
okay.
They're like a rival essentially. Yeah.
Okay, then I think that could play into this theory nicely, where like perhaps it is Madame Tussaud that is the one trying to bring down Cremorne Gardens so that they don't. Maybe they've even like already started the paperwork to try to acquire her Horrors of the Deep.
And that's very interesting. So Madame Tussauds is trying to basically, they're trying to not only ruin the business at Cremorne Gardens, but they're also getting a little bit of like free advertising as well for their waxwork. That's intriguing. What does the expansion have to do with it again?
So I think that Cremorne Garden is trying to gobble up some competitors.
So this is Madame Tussauds pushing back against that. Got it.
Yeah.
Okay. That sounds great. That's 2 clues. Maybe you could get some context to what the argument was about between Thomas and Abigail.
Yeah, I want to give Dan, Adrian a second if either of you want to mix that in some way.
So I was actually thinking of the most obvious clue to add is the torn dorsal fin, right? So it's pretty easy to say that that's like identifiable as like a whale fin or something.
Oh,
right?
it's not like some it has like some biological explanation. Yeah, that's good. Okay, what do you think, Adrian? Any additional thoughts?
I think that's right. I think that like a fan, that sounds good. I think.
I mean, that's 3 clues. You'd be at a -1.
I think the argument between Thomas and Abigail could work in as well, like you suggested. I think that, let's see. So if I recall correctly, Thomas sort of owns it, but Abigail runs it.
That's correct. Yeah.
Okay. Then I think maybe that Thomas is the one behind like wanting to expand. He like, from a very capitalist perspective, wants to grow the business. They've been doing well. Why not increase? And I think Abigail, who's like the day-to-day manager of things, does not want Cremorne Gardens, which I think maybe is already sort of seeing greater capacity than they ever really thought they would, doesn't want to take on more. Maybe she's even aiding, like Madame Tussaud has to be getting in whatever the horror is somehow, whether it be a hired person or her or whatever.
Wow, that's interesting.
And maybe Abigail is actually aiding in that.
Well, that might go into the next question too. So, yeah.
So, I mean, I think it kind of makes sense that Abigail might have a good working relationship with Madame Tussauds, right? Like, they're in the same business and all of that. So, like, I think she might just have moral objections to what Thomas is doing, right?
Yeah. Well, we'll see, because I think the second question has to do with the motives of whoever's perpetrating the hoax, right? So we can kind of get into that. But in terms of like just answering the question, is it real or is it a hoax? I think you're in good shape. You know, the waxwork and the story about the expansion play into this idea that Thomas is trying to expand too quickly. Madame Tussauds is basically trying to push back and also get some promotion for their upcoming Horrors of the Deep waxwork exhibit. So maybe they're the one pushing this, but maybe Abigail's involved because of the argument between Thomas and Abigail. They're clearly fighting about the pressures that that are happening right now. And then this dorsal fin perhaps was just it was just like a red herring thrown out by whoever's perpetrating this hoax, because it does in fact belong to a large fish and not some fantastical fish man.
And maybe it was part of the costume that
could be true too. Yeah.
Fishman has been wearing.
Yeah. So that's a flat roll. David, why don't you roll it?
Sure. That fell off. That's not too bad. That is an 8.
Okay. So the next question is going to be unlocked, but I have because of the mid result, I have a reaction I can do whenever I wish, and I will at some point. But the next question is also complexity 4, and it is who's perpetrating the hoax and why? And for that, you need just a little more evidence, but actually, you can try it right now if you wanted, I suppose, but I'm not sure how you do it off the 2 clues you have. All right. That's complexity 4, and it allows you to resolve the threat by laying a trap for the perpetrator and unmasking them. It is literally Scooby-Doo. So. All right, that's also complexity 4. Okay, very good. Okay, good productive start to the morning here. Let's cut over to Mr. Talford. So Mr. Talford, you said you were going over to the building site where this builder, David Hawkins, was found eviscerated. And there are stories of a spider-like creature in the area on the night he was killed. And excuse me. And I think when you get to the building site, you'll notice there are stacks of lumber and brick everywhere. Sweaty laborers are hauling things to and fro. Someone calls out to you, Mr. Talford, and you just barely dodge a tool dropped from above that goes clanging down to the sidewalk. And I paint the scene for everyone. This particular spot has a history of terrible accidents even before it was a building site. What do we see or sense that confirms this?
So I think there's like a howling wind that goes through the site, even when like it's still right off the site.
Okay.
I think that right outside, like at the edge of the site, there's like a makeshift little shrine with flowers and other things to a few people who've died there recently.
I think there's some place where someone has scribbled a warning or carved a warning into the wood in a wall or somewhere.
So it's interesting because even though this is just context, it's a lowercase c clue, not capital C clue, Mr. Nelson is targeting places with a history, right? Like Judge Thornwick's townhouse has a history. This place has a history. That's worth remarking upon. Mr. Talford, what do you do?
So I think I'm like very single-minded in this objective, right? Like I'm just basically ignoring everyone in the site, and I think I just go up to like a wall and just like put my hand on the wall and start attuning to the building and
very good.
Trying to talk to this ghost.
Attuning to the literal bones of this building.
Yeah, exactly.
There's no building, right? Yeah. Very intriguing. Okay, well, let's do that move. Old Bones, go ahead and roll with sensitivity.
All right. That is a 5 plus whatever I got. I think that makes it an 8.
Okay, very good. And let's read it. On a hit, a ghost will appear and answer a single question you pose to it or perform a small task, your choice. The answers can be in the form of a clue at my discretion. On a 10 plus, as above, but they will not ask for anything in return. Do you want to go ahead and just mark your mask since your character's done today?
Yeah, let's do it.
Mask of the past, learn a little bit more about Mr. Talford before he goes. So you got a 10. And yeah, we'll come back to that ghost scene in a moment. Let me talk to Mr. Green for a moment. Or to Green, I should say. Green. So you have tied the Limehouse Lurker down into Julius's bed, and it's daytime, so he will be, weak and pliable. So what do you do? What's going on?
I think Green is just kind of leaving the room, maybe, but maybe the lurker stirs and they kind of glance back. Are you awake, boy?
He says, where am I? Am I back at Brathwaite Hall?
No, you're at Hargrave House now.
Hargrave House.
Is that where you have been?
Why are my hands tied up?
Well, you tried to attack me.
He says, oh, I know who you are now. Mrs. Brathwaite said that I should be on the lookout for you and your colleagues from Hargrave House, that you might want to hurt me. And it seems she was right.
I will not hurt you. I will get you something to drink and then we will have a talk.
He's just silent.
And I think Green leaves.
So where are you going to go get
And
some
I think
blood?
Green wants to go back to the brothel.
Oh, okay. Very good. We'll come back to that. So, Mr. Silvestris, a nice invigorating morning of theorizing and discussing. What do you do after that?
I think I will spend some of my energy to manifest myself this day.
And I'll let you can stay manifested throughout the whole next day and night at Hargrave House. So,
okay.
Yeah.
So I will go ahead and do that. And I, as was described previously, the little mirror, wherever it was laid down upon his return to the house, it stands upright and then sort of projects this image of him that constructs, and then his form is complete and he takes the mirror and pockets it. And I think he's going to send out a telegram or a message of some kind. What would be the fastest way to get a message to someone today?
Maybe if you tell Green on Green's way out, it might be the easiest thing to do. Why don't we just have that scene before Green leaves?
So Ambrose has manifested. So he coughs the frog out of his newly formed throat. Green, I see you're departing for the day. Could I trouble you with a small matter?
I would guess so. What is it about?
I have here, I just finished writing it, and he hands you a small little folded letter sealed with wax on like paper that is altogether too old. This is a waste of good parchment, but Ambrose gives it to you regardless. Could you take this to Abigail at Cremorne Gardens? It's an invitation to speak with her. I think that she might know more than she's letting on about that little mystery we were discussing this morning. It's been running around in my head.
Yes, I've wanted to, in any case, have a look around there as well. I will try my best.
Oh, thank you, Crane. I much appreciate it. You can let her know that she'll have to ring the bell a few times. My hearing isn't what it used to be.
I will let her know.
Very good. Okay, we'll come back to that then. Mr. Talford, you are running your hands along the literal bones of this building being constructed. I think that there's a tree that is sort of there's a tree that's like sort of like in a planter area along the sidewalk, you know, and it's grown to be a good size. And there are a few like flowers and other memorial things laid at the base of the tree, and carved in the tree there is a roughly carved like message to a woman named Sarah that says, "Missing you much." And you feel that rustle of wind pass through. And then you see a woman standing by the tree that you didn't notice a moment before. And she does look like she's from perhaps more of the Regency era in her style of dress. A much more like there's no bustle, for example, on her gown. It's all just straight. And she turns and she says, "You can see me."
Yeah. Is there any reason I shouldn't be able to?
Well, it's just that I stopped calling out to people so long ago when I realized that no one would ever turn and respond. But you're making eye contact with me now, and so you must be able to see me. And you can obviously hear me. And she's sort of like, she's a little confused. You can tell that she doesn't quite know even what's going on with her, you know? This tends to be the case with these spirits. What do you say?
So I think I feel like previously Taliford would have just like questioned her and been done with it. But I think he actually wants to like help her. Having seen how Mr. Nelson dealt with the spirits in the short time he could see them. So I think that he'll say like, I just wanted to talk to you about what you know about this place and see what I could do for you to help you move on.
She says, "Well, I have watched it. I've watched many, many suns rise and set. I have seen things change. I have seen people arriving. It's thicker with people than it used to be. New buildings. I wish I could smell it, but I have a feeling by the look of things that I wouldn't really appreciate the smell. And I have seen recently some most disturbing things indeed. And yes, I do want to move on. I do want to leave this place. My family is waiting for me. She will tell you what she's seen in exchange for you quieting her. She says, look at the clues we have currently before I do that. She says, I saw a terrible beast. A terrible beast several nights ago. I saw what it did to that poor man. And I followed it. I followed it for a time. Until I couldn't get any closer. But I managed to just look around a corner. And I lost sight of it. It was not there. But I was in front of a cathedral. And sleeping on the cathedral steps, there was a man, perfectly naked. It looks as if perhaps he thought that church was some sort of refuge or sanctuary. And then I had to return to this place. If that's your clue, a naked man sleeping on the steps of a cathedral. A very big clue indeed. We'll see.
The spider stole that man's clothing.
And then crawled behind the cathedral. No one could see it. So what do you do?
So I'll thank her, and then I think I'm just setting up to do a ritual in the middle of this.
Okay, good. We'll come back to that. So Green, do you want the scene at Crumwood Gardens, Green, or?
I think so, because I think Green might try to look around there a bit.
Okay.
But just like, but if they're already there, maybe just let's see, because we just figured out, like there might have been this discussion, right? That okay, we're convinced it's a hoax, so yeah, Green's gonna deliver that message and maybe talk to some, if there's some other kind of like servant or someone like that Green could connect to.
There's Sven
because of
Anderson,
yeah,
who's the handyman. He's
yes,
a big blonde giant who's
yeah. So I think maybe if Green is kind of trying to see whether Sven that the others might have talked about is around, and then would talk to them for a moment.
Yeah, Sven's you see Sven for sure. He's always like kind of going around, like kind of setting up things for the evening to come, hanging the bunting around the dancing platform, say. Abigail, you can find Abigail as well. She's always around, sort of directing the workers and things.
Madam, I have an invitation to deliver to you.
Oh, well, if it's someone else wanting money, I regret to inform you that...
No. It's an invitation to talk, invitation to Hargrave House.
She says, and what is the subject matter about that I should have to go talk to them?
Oh, I couldn't say, but they're indisposed. I think they would very much appreciate. I think we could... It would be a nice dinner,
Thomas overhears this. He comes up and he says, well, we are actually seeking funds for the expansion right now. And well, Hargrave House, that's in a very fancy part of town, isn't it? Abigail would love to go. And Abigail kind of sneers at him.
I'm glad. I will tell my masters that they that we will be expecting you.
Good. Okay, good. Then what?
Does Abigail open the message on her way at all?
if that would be interesting, yeah. What's in it?
All that it reads inside is just, we know about your father. Speak with us in Scotland Yard immediately.
Oh, that's interesting. Wait, so is she supposed to be showing up at Scotland Yard, or?
Well, Hargrave House, we've said before that they are periodically affiliated with.
Periodically, yeah. Pretty rarely, but
so,
periodically.
But like the address given is Hargrave House.
Okay. Interesting. Okay. So then, Green, after you're done delivering your message, then what?
I think on the way out, maybe Green stops next to Sven and kind of looks a bit at what they're doing, kind of watches for a moment. What are they up to?
Presently, they're hanging up some bunting on the big dancing like pagoda, like around the edge of it.
Is there going to be a festival or something?
He says, most nights we have a couple thousand people up on this platform, dancing the night away. We're just refreshing the look of things a bit, especially after we had that party for Mrs. Brathwaite.
I wish I could come, but the likes of us, we are always working, right?
Yes. Well, the Simpsons are very nice. They usually let me hang around and have an ale or two.
Oh, that's good. I'm sure there's lots of interesting people that you meet. Kind of, if you have some time and watching and drinking.
He says, "Oh yes. Have you ever? Well, there's one." There's one woman, her name is, what's her name? Her name is Albertina Welk. Have you heard of her?
I don't think so. What is it that I should know about her?
Oh, she's incredible. She's the best dancer I've ever seen. Whenever she gets on the platform, everyone clears out to see what she's going to do. She's just she's what people here refer to as a bon vivant. She just loves life.
That sounds definitely like someone that my employer, Mr. Quinn, should meet.
And he goes back to hanging his bunting.
I think, I think Green will continue on to the Braho.
Let's talk about this. Well, we'll check with Mr. Sylvestris again. It might be a minute before Abigail gets there. Anything you want to do until then? She might not show up till the nighttime too.
Yeah, I think he'll just prepare tea. And there's him fiddling with individual tea leaves. He like plucks them.
What's that like? This is presumably the first time you've drank tea in ages, right?
Oh yeah, no, like this is absolutely like a holy ritual he's conducting. Like he has like a little pair of tweezers that he's individually selecting his tea leaves from a loose leaf bag. He's like testing the temperature of the water with his finger and like sort of like relishing in the pain of it burning a little bit every time he tests it. And then finally like pours himself a cup and is like the most impatient, just sort of pacing, like watching the clock, waiting for it to finish steeping. And then he takes that first sip and eyelids flutter a little bit. And he sinks into a cushy chair and waits for Abigail.
Very nice. Mr. Talford, what does this ritual look like?
So I don't think it's particularly complicated. Like she's a willing participant and all of that. So, but I think I do like set up a very basic sort of altar there and reach out to Mr. Bell, who I think I am like 100% leaning on like more and more ever since he like heroically saved us from the fragrant void.
Yeah, you did it in a way, yeah.
Right, yeah. So that's it. I think I'm just like reaching out to Mr. Bell to try.
Are you giving her to Mr. Bell or
no? I Yes, actually,
So,
yes.
okay.
I think I would be.
Interesting.
Because he'll take care of her just like he's taken care of me. So.
And Julius and everyone else.
Yeah. Yeah, the Julius thing is a little mixed, but
mixed result on that one.
Yeah.
She says, I don't know what you've done, sir, but for the first time, I can see a door that was never here before. And I know that if I walk to that door and open it, that I will be stepping into a new realm, into my new life. Oh, I wonder who's waiting for me on the other side of that door. Could it be my Henry, who moved on without me so many years ago? Could it be my daughter, who I scarcely knew before I was bound to this place? Thank you, sir. Thank you. And you see her walking down an alley. You don't see a door, but you see her walking down an alley. And you hear her say, my hand is trembling with nervousness and excitement. And she goes and she's reaching for what must be a door. And she says, oh, hello, who are you? No, you're not at all who I expected to find. No, I don't want to go with you. And there's just nothing. Just dead silence. And she's gone.
Well, I've done my good deed for the day.
Apparently. Just clearing ghosts out. It's a thing. Good. Okay. Mr. Green. Mr. Green. For one thing, you go by they, them. And also, you're the factotum. You don't have Mr. or Miss. Green. You go to the brothel a lot. They are, at this point, expect you, and that's no concern. So what do you do once you get there?
So if I remember correctly, I had one of the ladies give me blood for Julius when I went there the first time, at least the first time that we saw.
I believe that's correct. Yes,
Green going there.
Yeah.
So I don't remember her name, but I think Green is trying. That was like kind of like I think Mariah or something. So I think that would be the one that I think Green would try to find again.
Yeah, that's good. I don't think we need a scene or a role even, unless you want to try to like work in one of your Dawn questions in the scene or something and narrate something special. But
let's see. I think.
Because it's kind of your secret private life in London, I guess.
Yes, but I also think that this is still one of the places that we had some connection with the figs. So I think again, Green is kind of don't think we need basically I think Green is just going to ask that lady again for a bit of blood, but then I think Green will ask again to read to the children, because I think that's another thing that Green was doing there. The madam maybe ask her like if has there been anything, now after all the while, if you've been cleaning up, has there been anything else that woman has left behind? Any books? Miss Fig or anything else?
Do the information move with presence?
Oh, okay, that's a 12 on the die.
Oh, interesting. Very good. You'll get your clue
so
and
plus whatever it is. Yeah, 12.
Let's talk about your clue first. Let me take a look at the existing clues also. Okay. She says, no, I don't, well, she says, we found a dog collar and nobody knows who it belongs to, but one of the other girls seemed to think that it belonged to Mrs. Fig, but I don't ever remember having a dog here. And she'll go get it for you. And it is a dog collar sized for a dog with a very big neck. She says, I suppose if you see her again, maybe return it to her.
Thank you. I will take it, and I will come back to read to the children again. As long as no one else takes it up, I consider it my duty to do so.
Good. And I think that's pretty well the day phase. If there's anything else anybody else wants to do, I don't know, but if not.
I think I'd like to answer the question about Mr. Nelson going into the night phase.
Oh, that'd be great, yeah. Is the condition permanent or reversible? What do you think?
I mean, I feel like the clues are pointing toward reversible.
Okay. Well, the one is real obvious because that was probably Mr. Nelson. But what about the others, though? What confirms it?
So I think that, I don't know the context for the mural of scenes from his life, but is there another scene at the very end with him back in the West, like as an old man?
Oh, that could be fun. Yeah, like you could add that context for sure. I'll also note that the next question has also complexity 4, so you could theoretically like just get a couple of poor rolls and get straight to the resolution on this if you wanted to, but it'd be a couple of tough rolls, but you know.
I mean, I'm game for that because I will burn all of my masks to make it work. But it's up to you guys
who have for a little bit.
Yeah, it's up to you guys who have characters who are going to last beyond this session if you want to do that.
I got a fresh number of masks. I'm like,
that's true. David's character is completely fresh. Yeah,
never been this wealthy in masks.
So
yeah, sure.
I mean, because you could just theoretically go with the one clue and then roll at -3, or you could add in the mural and roll at -2.
Yeah, I mean, or even like the butterfly going back into its chrysalis, that seems to imply some sort of like reversibility, right?
Yeah,
so do like a -2 and a -2.
Okay, so you want to use the naked man sleeping on the steps of the cathedral and the butterfly to get the -2?
Sounds good to me, yeah.
Yeah, I like that.
Okay. Roll it, Dan.
All right. That's a 3.
It's a 3 on the dice or 3 total?
Well, it's a, oh no, yeah, you're right. It's a 1.
Okay, very good. So it literally cannot get worse. That's not true. We got a 0, I suppose. Is everyone marking China's mask, or what are we doing here?
Yeah, I'll do that.
Okay. Well, so here's the thing. You can just have it, you can just be wrong, right? Because this is one that has a binary answer. You can just not mark mask, have it be wrong, and then I make a really hard reaction. So, or you can mark mask if you're interested in Mr. Nelson being able to come back from this, and the reaction won't be quite as strong.
Well, where I'm at,
either way,
I'm expecting to be brutally murdered by Mr. Nelson, and so I think it would be excellent for him to turn back into a person at some point after that.
I like it. Well, everyone has to mark Janus Mask then, so if you're going to do that, I think is the Mask of Revelry still available for everyone from the Cremorne Gardens? That might be an option too.
I don't think we've marked it.
Yeah, so the Mask of Revelry is available if anybody wants to not spend their personal masks. Can
we use that on a different threat?
Oh, that's true. You can. That's a good point. Thank you for reminding me the rules of the game I wrote. That's a good point. And there's no special mask for the cursed, I don't think. No, there's not. So, okay, well, mark your Janus Mask and we'll bump it up to a 7 to 9, in which case you are correct, but it might be a tough encounter. Or there will be a reaction. The next question, though, is if it is reversible, what is the creature's weakness? It allows you to resolve the threat by performing a ritual or other procedure to reverse the transformation for good when the creature returns to Hargrave House. It's complexity 4. The American does not re-enter play, but does return to the United States. So that is, that would be a great night phase scene. You must also answer this next question though. So, which is, what's the creature's weakness?
Okay, I mean, I feel like these clues are probably applicable, right? So I don't understand the context of the feral cat population gathering for safety or war. So if someone wants to take that, lead off with that.
It's just a thing that's happening in the city. So yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I think tying in the soft clue that Hank's that specifically the spider has been going to places that have like a history of some kind, particularly with Hargrave House or just in general, like a sort of sordid past. And then we have this clue that is murals from scenes of Hank's life back out west. I think maybe a weakness could be that Hank in some ways is still in there, and like maybe even aspects of things that are sentimental or meaningful to Hank maybe have greater power against the creature. What do we think of that?
Did he maybe have a connection to Elvina Tompkins, the sex worker?
I mean, I could see that. Seeing as he did frequent like brothels and opium dens, that would make sense.
Wasn't there a railroad spike that might also
that feels like
something that's vulnerable?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, no, that is both sentimental and also pointy. So
so the sentimentalism is interesting, and I guess that's what that explains the murals for sure. I'm not sure about the cats though. What do we think about the cats?
Maybe we do this one at -3.
the cats. Maybe the weakness is in a sense that the cats actually they are gathering because they kind of are afraid of that the big spider in the city that is kind of, again, kind of encroaching on their territory. So they are the cats might be kind of a clue to where the spider is hiding.
Oh, I see. So maybe the presence of the cats actually is telling you something about, like, so maybe just fill it in a little bit. Like, where are the cats being found at places that were particularly sentimental to Mr. Nelson? That might be interesting.
Yeah, I think that might be like the cats. Yeah, I think the cats might be, they might be kind of starting their own war against the spider that's encroaching on their territory, right? And so they gather at certain places that also Mr. Nelson has been at.
Yeah, so just what are some of those places, David, since that was your character?
Well, I was just thinking that we could also sort of flip that, and because we have them, the cat population is gathering for safety or war. What if they are gathering and going to places where the spider has been, because the spider won't hurt them, and it will only like hurt things that would hurt them? And then, of course, like it leaves behind, it's not a little roughed up food, but it does leave behind food for them.
Oh, that's interesting. Oh, so it's the reverse. Oh,
and the reason why they gather around it is because the spider won't hurt the cats, because maybe Hank had a particularly soft spot for cats.
Okay, good. I think that's great. Yeah, I like this approach. It's a terrific theory. You don't have a lot of clues, but it's but the clue is your relationship with Mr. Nelson, right? That's the biggest clue of all. -2. David, why don't you roll that one?
Yeah. Come on, something decent. It's not great. That's a 5 total after the -2.
Or going to the mask well again. To pump the sun up.
Take a dip.
We're gonna learn a lot about your characters today. That might be the bulk of the session, in fact.
So I'm just gonna go ahead and mark the blood-soaked portal, right? Because that lets me do it whenever I want.
Yeah. You can. You'll eventually have to be dead.
Yeah.
But yeah, so that's good. Yeah. You have the control. Okay, let's take a 5-minute break. We'll come back into the dusk phase. Okay, it's the dusk phase. Let's do some dusking here. Playbook or custom moves. Ghost of Hargrave House and day work. Green, what do you think?
I will take what exactly happened with the decorative boxes of ashes from Julius' grave?
I don't know.
Mr. Telford?
That was used to draw him to Mr. Bell's house.
Oh, that's right. Yeah. That's how they basically got rid of Julius. So.
Yeah.
I will point out that Mr. Quinn has Hank's golden railroad spike marked.
Oh.
If you wanted to snag that.
Yeah, but the problem is I can only give it back to them in a scene, as if we,
But it's still in your possession unmarked, though.
Okay.
So, yeah, even if it ultimately goes back
that makes
to Mr.
sense.
Quinn. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, I'll take that. Yeah, so that's what I'm taking. Okay. And then let me see. The other thing is, I think we might. Let's see. What could I find in the house of Mr. Nelson's that has sentimental value?
Oh, that's a good one for the day work.
Yeah.
I mean, probably the brandy, right?
Sure.
The brandy with the blue ribbon, or maybe the revolver. What do you think, David? Or just anything else, I suppose, since the character's technically not here. I mean.
Yeah, the brandy's a good one. I think the brandy or the Colt Navy revolver are both great options.
Or Obert's cleaver.
I think the brandy, I think I'll take that and give it to Mr. Telford.
Okay, so Mr. Telford, you have Mr. Nelson's brandy as well. So
Great.
I'll just copy and paste it over to your thing. Since I'm on it right now. Boop, there we go. And
oh yeah, and I also have that pocket inscribed with "To My Love" that was given to Hank at goodbye. That's what I took last time. So we have lots of stuff that has value to Hank.
Yeah, I have a hand whittled bird that he gave to me.
Just put all this stuff out. Yeah, good. Okay, let's keep going. Let's talk about Hargrave House. Let's do the reception hall, since you will be receiving visitors tonight, Abigail and a giant spider monster, respectively. So the reception hall. Do you feel unsettled or at home when you enter Hargrave House? What do you perceive in the reception hall that reinforces this feeling?
So I think there's like a spiral staircase kind of going up along the wall, and like lining the stairwell are pictures of old hunters. And, it's the creepy pictures that sort of look like they follow you when you move around. And I think like when most people first start living there, it's unsettling, but like you realize that you come to like sort of see them as protectors watching over you the longer you live there, and it becomes a comforting thing.
And Mr. Sylvester, you're a literal manifestation of this idea. How do you feel?
I think I like going. So the feeling, I think, is I like that it starts unsettled and goes to at home. I think for people who enter, in addition to the paintings or the pictures of the different past hunters, I think there's some seating in the reception hall, of course, and all of it, like the angles and some of the little like reliefs carved into the wood, are fairly severe depictions. Perhaps even mildly spooky. There's like some scroll work that looks like skulls or bodies contorted. And then when you sit on the seats, so they're incredibly comfortable. So it's a mix and match, mixed bag.
Green,
over the seats.
Okay.
Sorry.
No, go ahead.
Yeah, over the seats. So Green feels at home because over the seats there is a large portrait of Mr. Quinn.
Mr. Quinn's the only current resident who has his portrait hanging up, right? Good. Okay, let's see what's next. Okay, boy, this is the question, huh? What is everyone doing tonight? I will say that Mr. Sylvestris, we will have a scene with Abigail. That'll be the very first thing that happens, so that if we need to shuffle her off stage, we can, but maybe not. I don't know. Maybe she's wrapped up in this somehow, so who knows? But anyway, anything you're going to do apart from that, Mr. Sylvestris?
I mean, is there in-game knowledge or just meta knowledge that we're going to have an incident with a spider this evening at Hargrave House?
I don't know. Might be kind of I think Mr. Talford probably has a good line on this, right? Because Mr. Talford has a real strong connection to the forces in play.
Right. I think I'm essentially using the beacon in the night, right? Just in the house and drawing.
Yeah, you're essentially drawing him to you. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Then in which case, I think Sylvestris wants to get what he can from Abigail and then send her on his way to invite the final guest of the evening.
Very good. I love it. Mr. Talford, anything you want to add to what you're doing tonight? Or
no, not particularly, but I'm definitely setting up like a ritual space, because I feel like this is another moment for Mr. Bell to shine here and help a brother out. So
we'll see. Do you have Do you actually have the ritual? You don't have the ritual chamber move that, but
no, I don't. No.
Yeah, that's okay.
But I think I'm just setting up like in the reception area. I'm like drawing chalk pentagrams on the ground and setting up candles and stuff.
I love it. Green, what are you doing tonight?
Answer a question about Patrick Fig first, and then going back to the farm, where I suspect they might be.
Oh, so you want to go deal with Patrick Fig? Oh, interesting. Okay.
Yes.
Well, we can answer the question now. Let's take a look at the. What kind of animal does Patrick Fig think he is? You have 3 clues: small objects going missing, perhaps to make a nest, reports of bales of hay going missing, and a dog collar sized for a very thick neck. What do we think?
So I guess a dog is kind of likely.
Okay, but what about the other 2 clues?
A very small nesting dog.
It could just be a collar for any kind of animal, right? It just happens to be a dog collar because they don't make pig collars.
Yeah. But I think maybe the point is that because last time that Green was there at this farm where because the farm was this kind of farm place was what Green was led to because of the missing bales of hay.
Yeah, Patrick has been here. Yeah.
So, but maybe it's not like a farm animal, but rather kind of a dog. So that's why Green wasn't looking in the right place.
Oh, I see.
So if he's like a sheepdog or something, he could be taking this hay to go give to sheep or something. He might have like a need to like take care of other farm
animals. Yeah.
Oh yes. So yeah. So because basically, I mean, pretending to be a dog, Patrick Fig kind of takes bales of hay to feed the other animals. I think that makes sense. And the small objects.
I mean, that's another thing that he could be making a nest for another animal if he sees for another farm animal, if he sees his role as like being protective and taking care of these other animals.
I wonder whether, maybe the collar has like these places. Maybe the collar has like small decorative objects hanging on the collar, like as decorative objects, like little charms, exactly. Yeah. And so maybe Patrick has another collar that, because this one was lost, that he's kind of trying to replace these charms.
I love it. So we think he's like some kind of like farm dog, sheepdog.
Yeah.
Okay, I love all that. I think that's a +1. Take it away, Adrian. Roll it up. So it is.
9.
Okay, so the opportunity is unlocked. You can lure Patrick out in the open and then capture or destroy him. But it might be just a tough. You have a tough go of it. I think the tough go of it might be related to the Limehouse lurker, who is currently tied up in the Hargrave House, which we have not addressed yet. And yeah, but that's where we're at. I always think it's very interesting with Fig's Pigs because like Hargrave House basically murders the shit out of La Hortensia and Obert, and then like has to do a nice thing for Patrick. It's like after you murder his family, like and lure him out and like send him to get help or something. I don't know. But in any case, so it sounds like what you're going to do is go to that farm, right? Okay. Then the evening is set. Did you give the blood to the boy when you got back, or have you saved that?
I think well,
maybe that could be the first thing you do.
Yeah, if we want to have the scene, then yes. If we want to have it next time, I'm gonna keep it for the next day phase.
I'll decide.
Yeah.
All right, that all sounds great. Let's go back to the phase tracker here. Janice mass prompts. I bet I have a few. I bet we have a few here to do. You can also save them for the dawn, but if anybody wants to do some of theirs now, please do.
I think I'm going to hold mine for the dawn.
I have 1,000,000, so I'm going to do one.
Okay, go for it.
So, narrative flashback to young adulthood that shows a time when you used your supernatural affinities for selfish purposes. And so I think that like Mr. Bell sent me out to the track essentially. And he was like, put all of your money down on this complete shit horse. And it was like, 1,000 to 1 odds, this like old broken down horse. And like, so I put all my money down and he told me to just ask for help when their time was right. And so I do. And I think like you can see, Mr. Bell's spirit enter into Taliford, and he just takes like a coin out of his pocket and just whips it onto the track and hits the lead jockey, falls off of his horse. There's like a huge horse pile up, and the shit horse was so far in the back that it's the only one who wasn't affected, and comes across and wins. And like you see Taliford walking out with just this huge stack of money.
Very good. Very good. I love it. Thank you. Any other Janus masks? Okay.
I have one.
Oh, go ahead.
We see so the prompt is narrate a flashback to when you were more of a family member to your employer than someone of their own flesh and blood. I think maybe there might be someone that Mr. Quinn, someone in their family that they expect presents from on their birthday, but never get them. And I think for the last, it's like since Green has been in the employ of Mr. Quinn, Quinn has procured presents and kind of signed them with the name of that family member and put them on the, together with all the other presents that someone like Mr. Quinn definitely gets. Like after the first time when they saw Mr. Quinn upset because there was one of the presents missing from this one family member, I think since then, Green has kind of taken care that there's always a present with the name of that family member on Mr. Quinn's birthday.
Nice, thank you. Okay, the unseen for tonight is going to be Perched in the Rookery. That is the 4th row down the first entry. The last one is our paint the scene on that one. And the first one is going to be for Dan. Second will be for Adrian. And the third will be for David. Let's take I know we just had a break, but let's just take another quick 3-minute break. We'll come back and do the night phase. Perched in the Rookery. Decrepit tenements lean against one another like drunks, broken windows, covered by rotting boards and old newspapers decrying the moral decline of the city. Alleys cramped, dark, and full of oozing filth. This rookery is publicly despised by the well-heeled of London as they drive the unfortunate into it, and the source of much salacious interest in private. Dan, a squad of peelers come in mob-handed to drag off a bunch of the usual suspects for a robbery charge. What do we see of those who get picked up in the raid? What do the peelers use to justify their brutality?
So I think as soon as they get there, you see like a whiskey bottle get thrown at them and shatter off a wall. And then it's just, massive brutality immediately. And then you see them dragging people out with like torn clothing covered in blood.
Do we then see immediately after a cut of you with the whiskey bottle?
We do, yeah. How'd you know?
I love it. Well, let's pick up with that. What are your, it's early in the evening. What are your initial preparations for this showdown?
Yeah, so I think I am like actually sort of arranging some like these things sort of as totems to like remind Nelson of like his former life. And I think that's the thing, is to just like get in touch with, like get him to become like back in touch with that part of his brain that remembers being a person. And so I think there is like, setting up the whiskey, like and all of the like the railroad spike and all of these items, and like arranging them around where they're obvious when they come in, but then also lighting candles and such to prepare for the ritual. So so that's basically it. Just that's lots of ritualistic ceremonial things.
You're in the
like, personal touches.
You're down in the entry, the reception hall, right by the front door, and when the bell rings, ding, 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 and you're closest because you're there already making your preparations, what do you do?
I'll go open it.
Standing there is a man in a tweed suit. He has pale, oily flesh, and he sort of looks at you and says, "Is it possible you have something here that belongs to my employer?"
I mean, it's possible, but tonight's probably not the best night to come searching for it.
How would you feel? How would you feel if I told you that I will not be so easily dissuaded?
Look, I really don't have time for this. Go in if you want to. Just don't touch the candles or disturb the sigils on the floor.
This is a very strange environment you have here, isn't it?
I've already turned my back to him. I'm continuing to draw on the floor. And I'm like, yeah. Yeah, I think Green's around here somewhere. Find him. Green,
you will see this man down at the bottom of the stairs. He looks up and he says, "Are you Green?" You're muted.
Yes, that is me.
Is it possible you have something that belongs to my employer?
Well, we have a lot of things here, so yes.
Do you mind if I come up and take a look?
Come.
He walks up the stairs. Green, you can hear the moaning coming from the room where the lurker is tied up. The lurker has not been fed yet. What do you do?
I think kind of trying to divert that person to this, to maybe the library, because that's, I think, where, if I remember correctly, we also have lots of things. And also there might be...
Do I look like the sort of person that reads? Who has time for books?
Well, in these modern days, not many people anymore, but we keep many things around there. Follow me, please.
He stops you and spins you around and says, "Are you going to continue being a thorn in my employer's side? Do you know what happens to people who cross her? What if I told you I happen to people who cross her? And do you suppose I have a gun in my coat? And would you guess I'm a very good shot?"
Well, we wouldn't like anyone to get shot in on the premises here.
Wouldn't you? Meanwhile,
so did we come to the? Okay, yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, you're just like in an upstairs hall at this point. Meanwhile, the door is still open. I think Mr. Taliford and Abigail Simpson comes in, and she says, "Oh, Mr. Taliford, I should have guessed you would be wrapped up in this whatever is going on right now." She's your former boss.
Right, yeah. Okay, I don't know why everybody's showing up all of a sudden, but whatever you need. Green, get down here.
What is all of this business, Mr. Taliford? Are you planning an evening of terrifying small children again?
I mean, if small children happen to be around, I'm not responsible for what happens to them. And I would say that goes for you as well. So you would probably be best to conduct your business in a hurry and go ahead and leave.
Mr. Silvestris, you're still manifested. Even though you can't leave the house, you can walk in on the scene if you wish.
Yeah, I think I'm trying to pick out which room it would make sense to take her off to, especially if Green is headed to the library.
So are you going to just appear in the... Or you're already around, right?
Yeah,
I like the idea that I've never even seen you until now. And I'm just like, okay, sure.
No, I like the idea that you're like, on your knees scrolling some sigil on the ground, and Ambrose just sort of almost trots down the stairs with like a platter with a teapot and various little teacups and little cakes. And he says, "Yes, Abigail, thank you so much for joining us. I will take you over in the salon, if that's all right with you."
Very good. She'll go with you. I want to note here as well, because I owe you a mastermind clue, that the mastermind clue is that Mr. Higgins is keeping an eye on Hargrave House. So. And that is the character's name, Mr. Higgins. I don't know if I said that or not, but that's who he is. Let's go back to the rookery. Adrian, two families share a damp garret, a single room with rainwater leaking in through the rotted shingles. As they huddle together for warmth against the cold night air, what little touches of homeliness do we see that show they are making the best of their situation?
I think what we see is that they sit around some sort of little fire that has actually gone out, but they all have their legs covered by these blankets that probably the mother has made for the whole family.
So, Green, this Higgins fellow is in the library, and he says, "Would you be disappointed to hear that I don't see what I'm looking for here, Green?"
Well, let's have a drink first. Whiskey, I suppose?
Do I look like I enjoy a bit of whiskey?
Well, if I may say so, yes.
And he holds out his hand to take a tumbler. Then what?
Green takes out a quite expensive bottle, I think, from a cupboard, and pours themselves and also the Higgins a good amount of whiskey.
He drinks it. He says, "And what is the provenance of this particular bottle?"
Oh, well, you would actually have to ask one of my friends here, Mr. Silvestris. They would be able to tell you all about it. I can assure you it has been here for a very long time.
At this point, you start to hear the lurker Higgins says, "What is that noise, Green?"
Oh, it's one of our guests. I will go and look what they need. I'll be back in just a moment.
Shall I come with you? And he...
No, you can just enjoy. Do you want another cup?
He just is going with you. Meanwhile, Abigail, she says, this is a very, very strange way for me to spend an evening. I want you to know that, Mr. Silvestris. Is there some sort of like play going on? I mean, you look like you're wearing a costume. Mr. Taliford is doing what Mr. Taliford does. I'm just a little confused.
Tea first before anything else. Here, and he like pushes the tray towards her, and there was a lovely serving spoon around here. Somewhere you can just swirl it if that's all right with you. I know things are a bit interesting here this evening, but I think it would be best if you settle your nerves before we talk any further.
All right. I'm of course very interested to hear what you have to say, especially if this is an inquiry, unofficial though it may be, from Scotland Yard.
Well, it is on their behalf that Hargrave House is investigating this matter. There is some interesting things that have come to light. I wanted to inquire, Miss Abigail, what do you know of your father's business dealings?
Here I want the information move, and I think I want it with presence. Yeah, presence.
That is a 8 total.
She says, well, I disagree with my father's big ideas and plans for Kremlin Gardens. He is trying to secure some very, very lucrative and frankly, very expensive real estate deals. I know that some of our competition, some of the smaller venues around the city are none too pleased with his aggressive business instincts. I disagree with all of it, but I'm not the decision maker. I just try to make sure that the train runs on time.
How familiar are you with your father's dealings in the past as well? How did he come to own Kremlin Gardens?
She says, well, that is a very, very interesting story indeed. And here, this is your clue. She says, in fact, the former owner of the gardens had quite a lot of unpaid taxes. And my father was able to swoop in and buy the place for pennies on the dollar. That's your clue.
Okay.
But there's nothing illegal about it, of course. Unethical, perhaps, immoral, say.
Well, I regret to inform you that I think there may have been more to that situation than you're aware. Has he been visiting any of those real estate deals that you've spoke of? Has he been inquiring after the present owners at all?
Here's your complication with the clue.
Yeah.
She's looking out the window while she's talking to you. And she says, hold on. And she walks over towards the window. She says, do you see that out there?
He'll get up and peer over her shoulder.
How horrifying. And she grabs you But then she eases up a little bit. And she says, oh, I get it. This is just more of Mr. Taliford's doing. Where did you get someone to make you a giant spider?
And
you do see the giant spider out in the square.
Does it seem to be heading towards the house?
Unclear.
Okay.
That is a marvel, though. My goodness. And then she sort of says, I have to take a look at it. I've always been fascinated by these sorts of things, the technical wizardry that goes into these displays. I mean, the modern world, right? And she goes, and she's going out to go to the spider because she thinks it's a prop that was of Mr. Taliford's doing. Meanwhile, Mr. Taliford, what are you up to?
So I think that, like, as I sense the spider getting closer, I think I am going to do a ritual, and like I'm foreseeing this to be another like bare knuckle brawl with the spider, like the first time around. So I'm trying to channel Mr. Bell again and like lean on his strength to give me the strength to fight this spider.
I love it. I don't need any die rolls since you've already since your fate is sealed. I just need to know what you're doing in the fiction. So okay, good. You will see her, you hear the conversation about the spider. You see her coming out into the reception hall to go out the front door to go look at this mechanical marvel. What do you do, Mr. Taliford?
So I think I just spin around and look at her, and she can see like the flames in my eyes, and I'm like, you should stay inside.
And she's like, oh my goodness, look. She points out the door, and you see the spider like essentially like kind of crawling down the side of the house in front of the entryway. She's like, and she looks terrified now. I think she realizes there's more going on here than she anticipated. And it's the 1, 2, 3, it's the 4 of you essentially in the entryway pretty quickly. Let's cut over to the rookery. David, in a lean-to slumped in a reeking alley, a small group of pickpocket urchins divvy up their spoils to buy food. What objects of frivolous wealth have they managed to lift?
I think that they, pour out a sort of ill-formed sack, and clattering onto the ground, you see like a few baubles, like a few coins swiped from someone's purse. You see like a pocket watch, like silver and beautiful there. And you see a teaspoon with like silver and little gold filigree on it. And like I think one of them picks it up and just like sort of flips it around in their hand, pondering themselves why on earth someone would eat off such a thing.
Good. Green, this Higgins character is not leaving you alone. You hear the moaning coming from the room. If he does work for Brathwaite, he probably knows who the lurker is.
So I think Green's plan would be to kind of try to slip into the room and close the door before Mr. Higgins can get in, and then try to kind of clean up the room so that the lurker is nowhere to be seen. So maybe put the lurker in a cupboard or something. And I'm seeing this as a kind of, as a always the last to leave move, kind of spring into action to take care of a situation.
I like it.
If that's, yeah.
Let's read, that's one of your customs, right?
Yes.
Always the last to leave.
Because the best result would be do what you intended, leave no trace.
Mm-hmm.
So
I love it. I think it's great. Let's roll it. It sounds like it's with composure. Yeah, I think composure. Although because Theodora wants the lurker back, I'm putting you at disadvantage.
Sure. So let me see. If I have anything I can use. I don't think so. All right. With composure,
Disadvantage.
Yes. That's a 9. So I think, yeah, no, good. Yeah, it's a 9.
You do as you intend, but something does not go according to plan. You said it was a 9 or a 10?
Yes, a 9. Yes, 9.
Something does not go according to plan. Choose one.
So I think maybe there's something, so the lurker is nowhere to be seen, but there might be something left behind that kind of points to the lurker.
So that he knows, like, basically he knows that, like, he can't prove
the lurker's
it right now,
in Hargrave House.
Yeah, that's good. Okay, I like it. Give us the scene. We'll conclude it in the last part. But just give us this bit for now.
Yes. So I think Green basically walks with Higgins up to the room, and then just before the room, just like before the door, maybe 2-3 steps away, he suddenly quickens his pace. They quicken their pace, and they kind of slip into the door, push it closed, and kind of close some sort of latch, and then see the lurker there. And I think maybe the blood is on a table, and I think very quickly Green kind of pours the blood into the lurker's mouth to keep them quiet, and then picks them up. I mean, they are just a boy, right? Like maybe uses the Adderall hunter's knife that they have, the adder handle knife, and cuts the cords that bind the lurker to the bed, and then push like the rest of the cords under the bed, put the lurker into a cupboard where hopefully they're now quiet because they have had some blood, and then turn back to the door and just open the door and said like, oh, I'm sorry, I was just, do you want to come in?
What is going on in here? He says, he pushes past you into the room. And I think what's left behind is he just sees the blood, right? That's like, maybe like a half chalice full. And he picks it up and he says, and what is in here, we wonder?
Oh, it's, we for a long time we had a guest staying here, and that was their favorite drink. They left it behind. I was just, before you came, I was just about to clean up finally, because I don't think that guest will be back.
Before anything else can happen, I think what really truly saves your bacon is the fact that there's a scream. Abigail screams down in the reception hall because Mr. Nelson is forcing him way. Wait, it's a double door. It's pretty big. The spider creature's coming in. So Mr. Talford, what's happening?
So I think as soon as like he gets inside, I think Talford like slips around and shuts the doors to make sure he's there, and just straight up launches himself at him to try and like subdue him again, like last time.
David, describe the creature.
Yeah, it's probably twice, if not 3 times the size of a man when it, like, the legs are fully extended and it's standing to its full height. It's covered in sort of this, it's, tough exoskeleton is covered in these brown and yellow hairs that go along its arms and along its back. It has, at its head, it has a large set of mandibles, sharp, I think already sort of dripping with blood. I think it's already fed somewhat recently. And multifaceted eyes that peer at you from all directions.
So, Dan, you got control of the scene here. Just give us the fight. What's it look like?
Yes, I think it's like just straight up mono e-spider, and like there's a lot of like Talford trying to talk to him in between, like while they're grappling with each other, and like I know you're still in there, Hank, and you just need to come back. But I think the end, like what we see is, after all of the whiskey bottle's been smashed, like the railroad spike is embedded in the wall, the little bird is shattered, and Taliford like asks Mr. Bell to give him the strength to like spare Nelson in exchange for his own life. And so you see like Mr. Bell's sort of shadowy tentacles grab Taliford and like hold his arms out, and the spider just plunges his fangs into Taliford's chest, and he sort of reaches out and puts a hand on the spider's face, and like as soon as he touches him, the hair starts to like go back in, and like he sort of reverts back into a man, like cradling Taliford's body in the middle of the entryway.
When we get back to the scene, David, you can have a little final scene as Mr. Nelson. It's basically at the conclusion there.
Yeah, Hank is cradling Taliford's body. I think Taliford's already gone at this point. Yeah. And he's naked, his body like covered in grime and blood from the fight. And we're just sitting in the middle of this entry hall. Is Ambrose or Abigail still there, or did they like recede while this?
Well, let's go back to the rookery for a moment.
Okay.
Everyone, describe someone we see making their way back to their home through the cramped alleys and the desperation that has led them here.
So I think we see one of the peelers from the beginning who is slipping back in and trying to get home without being recognized as being part of the mob from earlier.
I think
there's a...
Go ahead.
Please go ahead. Okay, there's a child in what once must have been extremely expensive clothes, but that are completely dirty and ripped, slowly walking up to the rookery.
I think we see a sex worker like with somewhat garish clothes that she wears while on the job, underneath like a darkly colored shawl she has drawn up over her head, as she hurries down an alleyway and opens up a door to a small lean-to dwelling that has 3 hungry mouths there waiting for her, three kids waiting on her.
I think Mr. Silvestris has manifestation has ended and is back in the spectral realm. Abigail and Mr. Higgins ran when they saw the spider. They just bolted out the front door. It's just Green and Nelson and what's left of Mr. Taliford here at the breaking dawn, with perhaps the lurker having slipped out of the closet, peering over the banister. Now let's just take it away.
Hank is sort of cradling Taliford's body to his chest, and he looks up, tear-stained cheeks, to see Green standing there. Oh, Green. I didn't think I'd have the opportunity to see your face again.
I also it's good to see you, sir.
I would have hoped under different circumstances. Green, I believe I've quite overstayed my welcome here in London. I think I need to go and face whatever's waiting for me at home. I think I deserve that. Could you take care of Mr. Taliford for me?
I will do my best, always, as you know.
He nods slowly.
I think you should take this. It won't back up at Hargrave House after you had disappeared. And I think Green hands them the pocket watch.
He takes it with an exceedingly sad smile. Thank you, Green. I'll keep it with me.
Safe travels.
One request for Mr. Taliford: make sure that he's buried on sacred ground. I imagine even in death, he would appreciate the quiet that may come with that.
I'll keep it in mind.
And he nods again and gently lays Taliford down amidst his sigils and candles there on the floor. Holding the pocket watch in one hand, he goes over to the wall where the spike is embedded, and he pulls that out with his other hand. And I think he goes up to where his room was to find some clothes and grab some, if he has any money stashed away, to go and purchase a ship.
Very good, very good. That concludes the night phase. We'll take a break because we do have a fair amount of Janus Mass to do when we get back. So give some time to think about it. We'll take 5. We've got plenty of time too. So we'll take 5. We'll come back, do the dawn, and yeah, that'll be great. Scene 5. It's the dawn. Let's collect rewards because we did resolve a threat. I have put an image in the chat for you there. You do not get to add the head of the beast to your personal quarters because the beast was not destroyed. But you can take something from the Americans' personal quarters if Mr. Sylvestris or Green, if you wish, or a memento from the investigation. So. What do you each want?
Just because I like the idea of Ambrose, this ancient ghost, having a Colt Navy revolver, the revolver will now sit on a shelf in the library.
Very good, very good.
I think I will take Obert's cleaver because who knows if Patrick Fig needs some reminder.
Very good. All right. Let's do dawn questions. Everyone's getting the first 2 because you did answer a question and resolve a threat. So everyone gets 2 XP straight away. And Green, you also got an echo in the night because of the whiskey. And did you engage in a petty reprisal of someone who angered your employer? I don't think that happened.
I don't think so.
Did you have a scene showing your secret private life in London? Yes, you can take that one as well. Good XP session for Green. Let's go to Mr. Taliford. It doesn't matter for you, but I am curious. Did you get an echo in the night? Oh, the whiskey bottle. Yeah. Yeah. You did have a face-to-face encounter with Dark Entity, and you did perform a ritual. So
I did. Yeah, I crushed it.
You crushed it today. Absolutely. Let's go to Mr. Sylvestris. Did you get an echo in the night, Mr. Sylvestris? Oh, the spoon. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And did you luxuriate the tactile? Yes, the tea. And did you utilize the past to solve a problem in the present?
I mentioned some things from the past, but I don't know if I really solved any problems, honestly, this session more than anything.
Still pretty good though. 4 XP is a good day. Very good. Let's talk about moves. No moves need to be resolved. And so that just leaves us with, you can mark new elective dawn questions if you wish, or leave either or both the same. And then we have the Janus mask. Who wants to get going? Here, I do want Mr. Taliford to do the Janus mask. Get some little kind of flashback epilogues almost in a way.
Yeah, I have one left, and I'd like to just close out with that.
Okay, sure. We can save you. We can save you for the very end if you want. Wants to go before that?
I've got one. So for the Darkened Threshold, for the Unquiet, I need to narrate a scene in which we see you silently observing the descendant of the hunter who betrayed you. And I think this acts as a flashback because I want it to be while Ambrose is still manifest. So this is while he's waiting on Abigail before the evening truly comes. He's been sipping on, I think he's probably on like his 3rd or 4th glass of tea. He's really enjoying it. All the caffeine. He's having a great time. And seeing as she's not going to be arriving that afternoon, expecting her to then be there that evening, I think he pulls out that mirror that bears no reflection that he uses to help manifest himself. And I think he like whispers an enchantment to it and like traces a pattern in the inscription around the edge of the mirror, and an image, like I think hazy at first, starts to come into clearer view, and if it makes sense, Jason, I would like for the descendant of the one who betrayed him to be Theodore Braithwaite, if that works.
Oh, intriguing. Yeah, I think that's cool. Yeah, I'm into it. Go for it.
Okay. Then if that's the case, I don't think there's much of the surroundings that are clear with this. I think all that he's sort of whispered to the mirror as a request is to see the one who's brought him here, who has brought him here to this moment. And I think we see Theodora, like, it's around tea time. I think she's seated at a table. Someone is sitting across from her, but they're not in view in the mirror. She's having a conversation with them, but again, it's inaudible, her lips barely moving as she goes and sips from her own glass of tea. And I think he watches this for a moment, like sort of taking in her features, taking in who this person is, how she's dressed, the gem around her neck. And then she like makes eye contact with him through the mirror and winks. And then he like puts it back in his pocket. And that's the scene.
That's a fascinating new dimension to Theodora's interest in Hargrave House, knowing that she has an ancestor of her own who was a hunter. That's intriguing. Green, do you have any unresolved Janus pests?
I don't think so.
Oh, okay. Any more for Sylvestris, or was that everything?
No, the other mask that I marked didn't require a scene. It was the moss-covered gate.
Oh, so
me too.
So
yeah.
There's no quieting you now. Very good. So, Mr. Taliford.
All right, so I have the Darkened Threshold. So a scene in which, possessed by a dark entity, you harm an innocent. So I think the way this works is we see like a montage almost of events throughout the course of the game, right? And like we see the failed exorcism, and you see like, but it's zoomed out a little bit more, and you can see like that Mr. Bell is behind Taliford, and Taliford with one hand is like weaving a little spell and interfering with the exorcism. And you see like just a series of scenes throughout where like Taliford has always been mildly possessed by Mr. Bell ever since he first encountered him, and has been kind of working counter to the investigations and like it's all kind of been leading up to this. You see like Belle putting the idea to introduce Hank to him and all of this. And so then the final scene is like Taliford standing up from his destroyed body, and Mr. Bell is standing in front of him at the doorway, and he finally lets the mask slip, and like his true form sort of appears in front of Taliford's spirit, and then that's the cut at the end.
I love it. Thank you. Let us be done with the session. Let's do stars and wishes. So yeah, and I guess your stars can be for the whole, Dan, for the whole campaign, I suppose, if you want. But whoever wants to go first, take it away.
Well, yeah, so I just generally like a star for everything. Like it's been great. Jason, thanks for, running it for me. And David, Adrian, it's been awesome playing with you, and Alicia too. And yeah, and my wishes, I think, are that we get to play again at some point. So
life intrudes sometimes. Life intrudes. Yeah, I had a great, I thought the session was really good. I particularly loved the send-off for Taliford and Nelson, actually, as it turned out. That was just a great final kind of moment. It was very touching. It was, it all felt very built up to this moment, which I thought was great. And yeah, and even though it was very like focused on Mr. Nelson and Taliford, Sylvestris still got to have like, sort of like, I think where Sylvestris is at in the story arc, what Sylvestris did today was perfect because it's kind of very early in that story arc. And it was nice also because Green gets to continue, like, there's always something going on at Hargrave House, right? Like there's never just one thing going on at Hargrave House. And so through Green, we get to see the ongoing like kind of stuff, which I thought was really enjoyable. And also kind of this kidnapping coming back to bite Green a little bit was very enjoyable for me. A star, not really a star, well, it is a star for myself, I suppose, but like the way Mr. Higgins is written is you can only speak in questions, and it's always a very interesting role-playing challenge with this character because everything has to be a question. And it always it's fun to do because I know why I'm doing it, but it always kind of throws the players, it seems like, a little bit, because it's like, well, am I supposed to answer or, but he's a fun character. Just happy to get him on the board. And yeah, I think that's all I got. I'm just, for wishes, I'm just excited to keep going. And of course, just a general star for playing with you, Dan. It's been a great, you and I go way, way back on when it comes to role-playing games. It's just fun to get a chance to play again. So.
Yeah, thank you as well, Dan. This was great playing with you, and this was a great session to kind of close it off. So hopefully we get a chance to play again. I also liked how, in a way, we could see today how Hargrave House and the characters are kind of two connected, but also kind of separate things, and so that one character can go and then come back, and there's kind of this, recurring cast of characters, and not so much about one player, one character. I think that came through in general, but also today very well. So I like that.
Yeah. Yeah. Thanks, Dan, for playing with us. And it's been really, really wonderful having you in this game. An easy star for this session was just Taliford leaning into Taliford single-mindedly working on this ritual, and just like guests keep showing up. And it's like, go talk to Green, just like, I thought that was really fun.
I like like when Sylvestris manifests, he's like, do I know you? Oh, whatever.
I thought today, like, this session was a really great example of if you lean into and are happy to like burn through masks or just take roles at disadvantage of various kinds.
You get the story you want, right?
Yeah. And like that it's weird because it's still a metagaming of a way, but it's not like a power gaming. It's like the opposite. It's like, I want this narrative arc so bad that I don't care about the risks. I'm gonna eat the risks and get the story I want. And I think that's just one of the strengths of the Between, is that you can do that, and like, wow, that went like so cool. It was like awesome to see how threat after threat after threat kept piling on for that night phase. I was very curious to see how things were going to pan out, so that was good. I thought that was a great thing. I wish as well would be, I'd love to get to play with you more, Dan. I just a star in general for just the whole Hank Taliford arc across the story. I thought this was a great way to put a close to that. And
yeah, it was very like in a sort of like repressed Victorian way. It was very romantic almost in a way, which I thought was really interesting. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, so that's like when I found out this was going to be my last session. That's basically exactly where I wanted Taliford's story to go.
Oh,
right.
Good.
So
yeah,
thanks for, I appreciate you guys burning masks and stuff to get us there.
Right. Another star. I have 2 other stars too. Star for that scene with the ghost lady. That was just so like dark and almost like it was cruel in a way. It was like, wow, like this feels harsh, but it didn't feel out of character. So that was great. And also a star for the way that, David, the way that you make the limitations of Sylvestris work for you, right? Like kind of getting Abigail to come to you and all that stuff. That was really terrific as well. I liked that a lot. And also a star, I can't help but I have to remark upon the echo or the bookending, if you will, of like vampires in the bedroom and Green having to deal with vampires in the bedroom, right? Like that's just a really fun, interesting little echo of the early campaign. So
yeah, thank you for going with this. So I suddenly had this scene in mind, just kind of like a slapstick scene of Green kind of getting in there into the room and kind of cleaning everything up, and then like, nothing is here.
Yeah. Yeah,
that was great.
Yeah. It was very like that end sequence was like kind of funny, like because sometimes people just start showing up at Hargrave House, and it's always kind of amusing because it's interrupting whatever you're all trying to do. And yeah, there was a little bit of, it had like a comedic element, but it ended on like a really emotional sort of like kind of not sad, but it is sad, kind of emotional moment. So yeah, it's good.
Yeah, another wish I have is to see what happens with the Limehouse Lurker, because it seems like he remained at Hargrave House. So
yeah, well, I have some thoughts on that.
Yeah.
I have some thoughts on that. Are there any other stars and wishes? Okay, I have a little stinger scene for you then. I think we just see the basement of Hargrave House, where Mr. Taliford's body has been stashed until he can be buried properly. And it's night. Or it's just dark. Who knows if it's actually night, but it's dark. Might be the next day, for all we know. And we just see the Limehouse Lurker, his face buried in the hole in Mr. Taliford's body. Just sucking up whatever blood is not coagulated yet, lapping it up. And he lifts his head, and out of the shadows, we just see a pair of hands go on his shoulders, as if to say, good boy. And we'll end it right there. Dan, it was a pleasure. Everyone else, I will see you next week. Let's stop the recording.